Can you take me through the ideal strength training program a woman should do in their perimenopause onwards?
So I always preface it as, if you are just getting into heavy lifting, know that it could take 6 to 8 months to learn how to lift heavy properly. So it's an earned journey. If you're just starting out, then any kind of resistance training is good because we're learning how to move and we add load. When we are ready to lift heavy, so we've been in the strength training and resistance training for at least 6 months and know how our body works, and we can work pretty well with heavy loads at 5 or 6. We want to really look at doing 3 to 4 sets of maybe 3 to 4 reps at 80% or more of 1 rep max. So it's heavy. And the reason for that is we look at the changes within the muscle as we get older. And one of the things that really comes up for women who are perimenopausal, and I get this all the time, of my running pace is slowed from a 4.5 minute to a 6.5 minute K pace over the course of 6 months. And I'm having a really hard time opening this jar of stuff that I used to be able to open. It's because we're losing power. If we're doing our strength training in the traditional sense, where we're doing our higher reps, we're going to build some lean mass, but we're not addressing the power end. We're not addressing that pure strength part. So if we're lifting heavier, then it's a central nervous system response. And what happens there is it stimulates our contractile proteins. So we have two really specific contractile proteins. One is myosin and one is actin. And they work by coming together, bonding, and pulling our filaments together to create a muscle contraction. Estrogen is tightly tied to how myosin functions. And when we start having a change in the amount of estradiol and the ratio of estradiol to progesterone, we have a dysfunction in that myosin. If we're lifting heavy loads, then we have an adaptive response from the central nervous system that says, no, we need myosin to work. So we're kind of overriding what was happening with estrogen by adding loads and having a different system come in and tell the muscle it needs to work well. So this is why we really want to push women who are in perimenopause and older to get into lifting heavier compound work, adding some tempo work, adding some power base, maybe some French contrast training where you're doing heavy loads followed by an explosive movement to really maximize those myosin actin connections, as well as keep our fast twitch going. Because we lose fast twitch as we age, but it's not that they just shrink, they actually go away. So we need the stimulus to keep them. And this is the heavier loading and the power-based work that's so important, not just for maintaining function as we get older, but also for attenuating things like dementia and cognitive decline. Because again, central nervous system invokes different responses within the brain. It keeps the brain active and moving in a positive way. So it's like doing Sudoku when you're sitting around, but instead you're getting body responses as well as brain responses that feeds forward to being independently living when you're in your 80s and your 90s.
I want to come on to the dementia and cognitive decline because this is very personal to me. But before we do, can you explain to our listeners or the people watching what a heavy compound move is? Because there may be some people listening whom, as you've just said, are completely new or have maybe only ever been to, a Barry's boot camp type class before. So what are the key heavy compound moves that someone would have to learn to do? Because I agree with you that you can't just walk into a gym and suddenly start lifting weights maybe in excess of your body weight without potentially causing yourself injury. But what are the key moves women should learn to do?
So when we talk about the key compound movements, we talk about a squat, back squat, front squat, single leg, anything that's using a barbell. We talk about deadlifts, either with a bar or hex bar, hip thrusts, anything that's going to be using your core and all the muscles around it. So we tend to think about as a Monday as your squat focus, knee hinge. So it's more of your back squat or front squat and all the things that go with that. You can think of another day as your push pull upper body. So you're doing a bench press, which is compound movement, overhead push press. You can do your bent over barbell row or pendlay row. Those are all your compound kind of upper body stuff. And then on another day, you're doing posterior chain. So this would be your hip thrust, your deadlifts, your Bulgarian split squats, any of those kinds of things are when we're looking at compound and using core. You're using a whole bunch of muscles to activate in order to execute that movement properly. When we're looking at people using machines and doing leg press, it's not a compound movement because you have the machine that's supporting you. We're talking about dumbbells, yes, but a lot of times the dumbbell work is done with more momentum. So you're not really activating everything. So we want to get under the barbell and we want to be able to do these big lifts properly. And it doesn't matter how much load you're lifting when you start, as long as you move well. And everybody's lifting heavy is relative too. So it could be that you can squat a 15 kilo bar at the start, and that's heavy for you. You can get 3 really good ones, but then over the course of the year, that 15 all of a sudden becomes 50. So again, it's relative.
Is there any merit in these charts that you find online saying what your back squat should be relative to your age and weight? You know, you should be able to back squat 80% of your weight in your 40s or whatever. No.
No, no. A lot of that comes from the bodybuilding world and primarily male data and has been generalized. Even the conversation that was going around maybe 6 to 8 months ago about being able to farmers carry 75% of your body weight for a minute, there's no science behind that either. So it's just you want to be able to lift and be strong, and that should be your focus.